All right, so I'm going to let each, just as a way to kick this off, I'm going to let Matt and Izar introduce themselves, but also just share some high-level thoughts and perspective on ThreatModCon. And so, Matt, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Thanks, Chris. Hi everyone. I'm Matt Coles. I'm was part of the program committee this year and had an opportunity to see all the wonderful presentations that folks submitted, call for papers, and also to help organize our not a keynote, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Just from my perspective. ThreatModCon was nerve-wracking up until the last minute, and then a wonderful success. I think it was great that so many people were able to come out and attend it. We had a great crew of speakers and other personalities, some great sponsors and vendors who were present, and I thought it was really collaborative and interesting. A lot of great conversations, side hallway conversations or in-session conversations. And everyone of various skill levels had an opportunity to attend and be part of the event.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Izar, why don't you go ahead and go next, please?
So, yeah, I was also part of the program committee, and like to think that I helped organize this whole thing together with my partners in crime. To me, this is the second time that I reach the fruition stage of one of the wouldn't it be cool if things. So the first one was the manifesto, and it came together with a bunch of people looking at each other and saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a manifesto about this threat modeling thing? And ThreatModCon came up in part as a product of that, but also the same way, the same development runway. We looked at each other and said, hey, isn't it about time that we have a conference just for threat modeling? And we came at this from being parts of program committees in other in different events and seeing the amount of content around threat modeling that appeared on those events, and understanding that there was space for people to talk just about threat modeling for a while. And unlike Matt, because I wasn't presenting this time, it was a great opportunity for me to not be anxious and panicking. And I have to say, I had an amazing time with all of you that were there and some that weren't. And one of the great highlights for me was definitely the ability of taking a step back and being able to relate to people. And not only to that, to be a little fly in the wall and listen to some conversations from the side without being part of them, and seeing that, yes, there is a place for an event like this that I hope we will manage to turn into a yearly event, and to just be amazed by the things that people brought forth, and by the amount of things that I still have yet to learn in the field of threat modeling.
Cool. Thanks, Izar. And so my name is Chris Romeo. I'm the CEO of Davici. And so Shinning and I, when Shinning was planning the Threat Modeling Connect community, I think it was about a year ago now, we are on a call brainstorming, and I said, you should do a conference. And like, I like to just throw big, crazy ideas out and then watch other people chase them down and make them happen. But we were, that was kind of the genesis of this whole idea of doing a threat modeling conference. And the team that brought this together, many of them are on the line. It's bigger than just Izar and Matt and myself. It's Brooke, it's Chris Ramirez, a lot of other folks who were part of this process of planning the event. And so being able to focus on this topic was such a powerful thing, because the collection of people, the collection of speakers that came together to do this, like, it was just a magical day. And for those people that were there, I hope you had the same experience, because for me, it was just a magical day. And you may have seen me running around like a crazy person for some parts of the day, just trying to make sure everything was happening behind the scenes. But in general, though, just like Matt mentioned, the conversations in the hallway, like that was priceless. Just getting to meet people and connect with people face to face, as well as hearing 8-10 excellent speakers who were covering different facets of threat modeling. Being able to see that, the depth that exists in this art that we practice at threat modeling was just such a powerful thing. And so I can say this is one of the highlights of my professional career, was being able to bring this together and then watch all of these excellent people make things happen, deliver some incredible content, which has been recorded, so that will be available for those that weren't able to join us. And I think we've really created something special that's going to live on beyond this year. Like we started something, and now it's going to need to continue on into the future. And that's going to require many other people to be involved over time too. The original group of people that brought this together are not going to be running this 10 years from now. We're going to need new people in the industry to step up, take on roles, and help drive this thing forward. So that's just a sly kind of call for volunteers for the future. Yeah. So kind of from a structured perspective, we're just gonna walk through and highlight some of the things that we experienced at Threat Modeling Conference a little more specifically, talk about what it's about, some of the highlights. And then once again, if you got questions, I'm watching the chat window here. You can raise your hand as well if you want to get my attention and say something, but we'd love to hear from other folks that were there as well, that have perspectives. And so there's Mr. Brooke Schoenfeld up at the top, during the keynote that we'll get to in a second, but you get a perspective on what it was like in the room. I mean, for those in the room, you probably remembering this. I mean, there wasn't a lot of open seats. It was a pretty full event, with standing room only kind of in the back. And, you know, we did this and it was fully sold out also. Like I had people I saw in, that were in town for the OWASP event on Saturday that said, "Oh, I didn't know about that. Can I get in? Can you give me a ticket?" I'm like, "Nope. Sorry, sold out. There's no space." I'm sorry, we already sold out, because our original goal was to get, I don't know, 100 people, I think was my original goal. And what did we end up at, Shinning? How many total tickets did we sell?
165.
Okay, 165. And I think we had 130 people roughly that were with us for the day. And so we blew through what we were imagining we were going to do there. We're going to talk about the non-keynote keynote. That's not the way I like to describe it. That was Matt's brilliance, bringing that together with Brooke and others from the team. 12 different sessions. Birds of a feather were a really powerful thing that we experienced. And then really the hallway conversation. So birds of a feather, though, like over lunch, we set up round tables and different folks from the community sat at a table. Sometimes they didn't say anything. They let the people just started riffing on some facet of threat modeling. Izar, what was the topic? What was your topic at your table?
If I remember correctly, it was program.
Okay, running a threat modeling program, right?
Yeah.
And so what was your experience like, though, sitting around that table?
Oh, there's so much more work for us to do. I mean, it was great. It was great because, you know, instead of presenting on past experiences and failures and whatnot, it was great to hear people go over what they thought a good threat modeling program would be. And some of them had opportunities to put those things into execution and learned lessons out of it. But it became very clear very quick for everyone in the table that, and actually we had some people standing around the table, which was really cool, that there is a bit of an expansion needed here, and not less, but apart from looking at methodologies themselves, we have to start taking into consideration the differences in executing and measuring threat modeling, and seeing how these go together with the program, with the whole AppSec program, with the whole risk management program in different environments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was really cool about Birds of a Feather, people were connecting with each other. Like people were connecting on LinkedIn. I talked to one person who had connected during ThreatModCon with 9 different people. And I heard this comment over and over again. I've never had anybody to talk to about this stuff. And now I have a group, I have a community that's building that people I'm going to follow up with after the event to talk about these things. Because a lot of people are doing threat modeling on islands. They're inside of a company, they're responsible for it, and they don't have, there's not like there's a bunch of people they can talk to about it. So Matt, did you, you had a table, right?
Yeah, we had, well, the intended topic was around was around the technical aspects of threat modeling, talking about modeling techniques and some of the other technical aspects of how we take descriptions of systems and whatnot. But we had 12 people around the table. Everyone was there with their lunch and everything. But the conversation definitely went in different directions. It was great to start a conversation, have interaction between folks at the table, which is what we should have for birds of a feather. There was QA to me, QA back to the group, and while we didn't stick entirely to the topic, it was good, because it was good to learn new perspectives, talking about what people wanted to do and where their challenges were, and really understand, get a picture of the challenges that people are facing and where they need help, both themselves as well as the state of the industry at large. And so it was great to see. And I guess when we were doing this, I didn't realize that there was the overflow room. It was great to hear that the people who couldn't get a seat at the table got a seat at the table.
Yeah, there was a really spirited conversation going on there that Brooke started off and Jono jumped in on, and a lot of other folks were collaborating on that as well. And that was kind of a little bit of a freestyle, threat modeling freestyle, we'll call it. But it was, it was really, really powerful to see how people were just kind of jumping in and making the event better, based on their experience. So let's talk about the non-keynote keynote, because this was interesting. I go to a lot of conferences, and I've never seen anything like this before. I've the biggest conferences in the world, I've never seen anybody do anything this different. And so, Matt, can you set the stage here about, first of all, where'd this idea come from? But then also just give people that weren't there kind of some perspective on how'd this come together? How'd it work?
Oh my God. So this was not a keynote, the non-keynote keynote, I guess. So before I jump into the how did we get here, I just want to thank everyone who was involved. Tanya, Brooke, John, Siba, who am I missing? Siba, sorry, yes, right, and Robert. And so it was great to have a great group of folks. Yes, thanks, Brooke. I was getting there. So it was a great group of folks, a lot of good perspectives. So how we got there, I guess, was we were on a program committee meeting a few months ago, and we're talking and trying to brainstorm ideas about how we're going to approach this, and if we're going to do a keynote, who's going to do the keynote. And I'm thinking, well, but this is about frontline for everyone. Wouldn't it be nice if we had maybe we should do a panel? And then it's like, oh, about a panel, yeah, you could do a panel, you could do a couple of people, but that's kind of boring. And so then it's like, poof, maybe we'll just do story hour. And so it's just off the cuff remark, and it sort of took. And so here we are, post-con, and I think we pulled it off, right? We found a theme, right? So we focused on the theme. We sort of storyboarded the process a bit, but when we storyboarded it, we didn't know who was speaking and what their topics were going to be. So we really sort of had an approach of what we were looking for, and then we reached out to folks. Agreed to be part of this effort. And oh, by the way, I forgot somebody. Our last minute addition to the story hour, live on tape through video feed. Adam Shostak, who joined us as well. And so we had this theme. We put together the agenda based on who was attending and what they wanted to talk about. We didn't suggest anything. It was we want to talk about ideas around threat modeling and this notion of building a community and learning about how threat modeling progressed over time. And everyone came with their stories. We put that together in sort of a semi-logical flow. and it worked out well. I think I will say at the event, we had blocked out time for everyone to give their little vignette or their story. And some folks ran very much under time. And so having the ability to do a Q&A with everybody on stage afterwards, I think we got a few questions in. We had about 20 minutes, I think, or about 15, 20 minutes for Q&A. It was a good conversation with the audience. And I think that was very, we weren't going to do that originally, but then because we had so much time, rather than give folks time for breakfast, sorry guys, Q&A and making sure everyone had an opportunity to interact with the not a keynote presenters was definitely a key thing.
Yeah, very powerful too. And a lot of great questions came out of that. And that's just the fun of running a conference, running an event. Sometimes you just have to adapt on the fly and mix things up a little bit. But how many slides did each of these keynote, these people, how many slides could they bring to the table, Matt?
0. It was no slides.
I think that was a powerful piece.
There was one slide. There was one slide, static slide that was up on the screen,
with their telling who everybody was. But yeah, I think that right. That also really made it a more powerful experience because there was it really was storytelling hour. So when the video is out, people, if you weren't there, go check this out because it was 6 individual stories about threat modeling, and they wove together almost like they had been orchestrated. one by one. They supported each other. And I know you didn't go into it saying, okay, you have to talk about this, you talk about this, you talk about this. People just told how threat modeling impacted their lives and how it impacted their story. And just the way that they all they're interwoven it's very magical how that came together in such a way. So definitely folks should check that out if you haven't seen it. I'm going to go watch it again just because I want to be able to, in a slower format, take it in again and reflect on some of the things that these brilliant folks talked about along the way.
And hopefully, and just before we jump into the next, the first item here.
Yeah.
I hope, and I think when we were at the event, we heard some good feedback about the story hour. Hopefully folks came away with learning something, understanding better about the activity, understanding better about maybe how they might approach it or things that they can learn directly. If anyone has any feedback that they want to share through the chat, please do so. Or when we do Q&A later, definitely would be interested to how we might shape it better in the future. Or if there was anything particular that you pulled from those stories that you found interesting for everyone to share.
Yeah, you've definitely started a movement here. And so next year you're going to have to find a way to take that and layer something on top of it. You can't just give us a keynote at ThreatModCon with one person. It's not going to work. We're not going to accept it. We want something more because you push the envelope, and the fun thing about that is you get to keep pushing the envelope along the way.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, I love it. I love when people say challenge accepted. Means they're going to go do the work and figure it out for me. Theme 1, how to start doing threat modeling. So we actually had 2 different workshops happening right after lunch. So we did get a chance to eat and do the birds of a feather, and then we migrated into really 2 different workshops. The picture we're showing you here is Robert, who's on the line. Actually, was one of our workshop speakers. And Robert, since you're here, I'm just going to call on you and say, what did you see as the impact from the audience, the folks that were in there with you? They were the students in the class. How did they perceive this?
Really good. There were some folks in there that I thought, well, these are seasoned threat modelers. What are they doing here? They should be next door and join Jono's workshop. But everybody seemed to enjoy it. Everybody seemed to get something out of it and participate. I was wondering, are some of the folks going to say, well, I've already done this, why am I here? Or I'm not sure if this really fits, but no, everybody participated. Every team got involved, which was great to see. Lots of great questions, activities, and so forth in putting together a sample threat model. So a lot of fun.
Very cool. And I'm gonna quote a mentor of mine by the name of Brooke Schoenfeld, who it taught me and introduced me the idea, like, it's good for us, even if we've done this a lot, to go watch other people teach, watch other
Yeah.
people how they do it, because none of us are there. There is no such thing as an expert, right? None of us are experts. We're all learning. We're all works in progress. And so being able to watch some of those folks that were watching you, Robert, were learning new ideas to how to approach threat modeling. And so that's something that we can all do. And that's the humility that was represented in this conference, though. Like I've been to conferences where people wouldn't have gone in that room. I'm not going in that room. I already know these things. But that just speaks to the community that we've built, that started in the manifesto and now is rolling out into the Threat Modeling Connect community and in the events here. We have this kind of open, willing to learn from each other type of thing. And that's a really powerful thing. So thanks, Robert. Thanks for being a part of the event. And I know that workshop was very well received by folks. We had so here's another talk. I got a chance to sit in on this one with two folks who are from Raleigh, North Carolina, where I am as well. So I'm big fans of both Brenna and Lisa. But yeah, they did a really great talk on scaling threat modeling. They both have a lot of experience in what they do in their jobs in moving threat modeling forward. And so for me, that was an excellent talk, just to have some different things to think about how do we take this and move it to a higher level. How do we do better? They talked about their Justice League and some of the things they've done inside of the company they were working at. So Matt, Izar, any thoughts on scaling on this particular one?
So I like this one, because it came from, I don't exactly remember Brenna and Lisa's functions, but I do remember that they did not come from the usual suspects, right? It wasn't a program manager, it wasn't a developer pushing how their threat modeling program works, and I found that extremely compelling. And they presented it in such a relatable way that I constantly saw a lot of heads in the audience going up and down. So they certainly touched something that made sense for people, and that connected back to the Birds of a Feather that I was in with the programming. They answered a lot of those questions.
Nice. Yeah, and that's for people that want to speak at something like ThreatModCon, if you bring a case study based on something you've experienced in the real world, that really bubbles up to the top of the list, because you're giving us real world experience. It's not like you're saying, I have a theory and I think this could work. You're saying, I had a theory and then I tried it and then these wheels fell off, but then we got the wheel back on and we kept going, and here's how we made it work. And so that's a very powerful format you can use if you're sitting on this call and you're like, I want to speak at ThreatModCon next year. Think about what experience you have and how you can tell that story so that other people can learn from it. So let's keep going, Matt. I'll let you, if you've got thoughts on the next one here. How to scaling. So Michael Bernhardt did this Hitchhiker's Guide to Failing Threat Modeling. He had like a martial arts kind of connection to it, so that kind of resonated with me. And you seeing on his slide here is Kihan, Kata, and Do. He it was like a cerebral illustration of threat modeling that was different than I'd thought about it before. And so that's one of the things I enjoyed about Michael's. I don't know, Matt, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I only was able to catch the beginning of this. I got pulled away for something else in the middle of the talk, but it was definitely interesting to. It's always interesting to see how different people approach threat modeling program development, rolling it out to stakeholders. And Michael's talk was certainly no exception here. His approach, you had it was cerebral. It was very different and out of the box, and highlighted a way that we like in this industry to use a lot of analogies, and his approach was definitely innovative. And so, like I said, I didn't catch all of it, but the part that I did hear, he was presenting an approach. We're going to move forward. Okay, He was presenting an approach to threat modeling that I think was so different that people were taking attention to it, and because if nothing else, it drives ideas for people that they can take away. That's what I took away from that.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, I mean, we're still under the other workshop side of this, and I didn't mean to jump ahead on you, Matt, but
That's all right.
I'm moving us forward. We're on a journey here to cover a lot of different themes.
We are.
I think Jono, I think you're on here actually. I'll ask you the same question if you don't mind coming off mute, just real quick. Like, what was the perception of folks in the room? Talk to us about the audience's experience here and what you heard from them.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. Thank you for having me and having a spot on the workshop stage. One of the things that I think was really eye-opening for me as an individual and really drove my workshop was actually taking stock of who was in the audience. I expected to see a lot of developers, project managers, QA tester, boots on the ground folks who are delivering value to customers. And what I actually found was I had people from privacy sectors, I had directors, SVPs, but also people who weren't in a technology field necessarily, who were there looking for how to move it that little bit forward. And so that was eye-opening for me because it did allow me to actually on the fly change some of the content that was in my slide deck. So if you go back and watch and record, just know that the slides have been updated as well too. And having that conversation about how varied the audience was for my portion reflected just how varied the audience for anyone who could benefit from threat modeling inside of an organization is. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I had out of all of these conversations is that for any group of people, the audience is always bigger. Or sorry, for any threat modeling concept, the audience is always bigger than what you expect. And this was really important when I got to be able to actually talk to people and say, oh, I understand where you're coming from. Even though I'm not in your field, even though I'm not having your same challenges, I see you. And going back to that theme that we're trying to recognize people and not feel alone being threat modelers really came to be and helped drive not only my presentation, but I saw energized other people as well too.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks, John. Thanks for teaching that workshop. That was a really powerful experience, I know, for a lot of folks. And as you can see from the picture, that was a full room of folks that were experiencing that with you. So theme 3 was agile development, threat modeling's impact on agile. Izar, did you have any thoughts on Joff's rapid threat modeling prototyping talk?
So this is one of those that I really wanted to be in. I'm familiar with his work and I have deep respect for his work. And I couldn't. I was
so I can jump
outside.
in.
All right,
Please do.
So I did get a chance to attend this, and I was less familiar about rapid threat modeling prototyping when I entered when I got a chance to join his presentation, and I learned a lot about it. So this was presenting an innovative method. Well, I should say it's innovative to me, but it's certainly not new to the industry. But so this was a new look at rapid threat model prototyping. Definitely an interesting method approach, looking at how you look at a system and the onion of a system, and how with just a little bit of fancy math you can quickly identify threats of interest to you. And so it was definitely interesting. His war stories and anecdotes and whatnot were particularly interesting in the way that he approached this. And so having we had a few other talks. We had only a couple talks talk about actual methodologies, but this is one that was a good presentation to help people learn. It isn't just stride, or it isn't just whatever, right? The 4-question framework or CTM or whatever. And so that was it was most excellent to have him there to give us his perspective.
Very cool. And theme 4 was how to integrate privacy and threat modeling. Dr. Vutz is on the line here with us as well, but I'd always love the opportunity to hear Kim, who is the privacy threat modeling person on earth. Like if someone says, who is the person that we should talk to about privacy threat modeling? And we want to talk to like the original person, Dr. Vutz is that person. And so I always love an opportunity to hear Kim share her thoughts on privacy, because I've spent so much time on security in my life. I don't know enough about privacy. And so every time I get a chance to listen, I'm learning more things because I'm like, okay, it's all starting to come together for me. So Izar, any thoughts on Kim's talk?
Yeah, we should have followed that with another session about privacy in threat modeling and call it "The Doctor is In," because there were so many questions at the end. People are really like looking for this. People want to understand better. People want to take advantage of the methodologies of threat modeling to their privacy practice. And I'll be the first one in line to say, I don't think that we really understand all the facets that are enclosed in this approach. And I definitely need that it's something that we are only going to get more if we get better at it. And definitely Kim is the best one to be telling us about this stuff.
Heck yeah. So I see a hand raised. Maria, what was your question?
Yeah. So first of all, guys, the privacy, the compliance, even the Biden Act that is coming right now in terms of it, from May, whatever, 2022, whatever, the new one for the Gen AI and stuff. These are all the things that people are wondering about, how they have to be implemented, how these actually requirements are going to end up into the product, right? So this is something very important and nobody's talking about that. I had about over 300 follow-ups after my session at ISACA, which was how practically to implement privacy and data ethical AI into your product. So this is a huge area. I think starting with the threat modeling is the right answer for everybody. So we specifically, if we have tracks maybe for the next conference, maybe we should have a privacy track, compliance track. Definitely a workshop on that I would recommend.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good idea. We'll add that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, Kim was amazing, but again, a lot on the practical side. That's what people were craving for.
Yeah, we'll definitely add that to our retrospective for things to consider for next year. All right, so how about classic brainstorming? Matt, did you catch this one? Classic brainstorming versus tools?
My apologies,
tools?
I did not.
Right. I didn't catch that one either. I was running around at some point there. But I did hear good things about Edward's talk, and I'm looking forward to going back and checking that one. See, even the people that ran the thing, we didn't have time to catch everything along the way because there was so much awesome stuff happening along the way too.
I think Edward is on this call today if you wanted to get his perspective, but
yeah, Edward, we're doing for
time.
Give us a quick 30-second blip on what was the answer? Was it tools or was it the brain that won out?
Oh, well, the key point was the fact that 36% of the threats that are identified by human brains during classic threat modeling are completely invisible to threat modeling tools. And in fact, those are mainly the so-called business abuse cases, because you need to understand the context. And this is something that tools actually cannot do. And other key points were success key factors for implementing threat modeling at scale, key points on selecting a threat modeling tool, and for rolling out a threat modeling tool at scale as well. So
very cool.
Main key points.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for giving us that quick update. And that's another one I had on my list to go back and catch on the video. We couldn't have a threat modeling conference without somebody talking about AI.
We could.
Starting point. We could have.
We almost
but we
did.
didn't.
We could.
We almost did.
We almost did, but then we ended up having a cancellation. So we were able to bring Whale was able to come and talk to us about Everyone's a Threat Modeler, an AI-enabled journey for beginners. In that talk, he just connected. He was using ChatGPT to try and extract threat modeling knowledge and threats and mitigations and things, doing some initial research into how you can use LLMs as an enabler for your threat modeling process. So I thought it was excellent. His, he kind of got us going in that direction, got us thinking about it. So either Izar, Matt, you got any other thoughts on that one?
This is on my to-do list to go watch.
So I made a point to watch this one, and I am what you could call a very reticent believer in AI and threat modeling. And while I was is a great presenter, he was so clear. He brought the stuff right in front of us, all the pieces, including those that didn't work, which is always something that I love to see in presentations. I love to see how things don't work. It's very easy to tell a tale where everything is beautiful and everything works out of the box, but to have the courage to come and say, I tried things and they didn't work, and this is how and why, I think that adds a dimension, and why was great here. And yeah, I didn't come out more of a believer. In fact, I felt very reinforced in my beliefs. But I think that the fact that we were able to have this presentation at all, to have the submission sent to us, and it was just lucky. There is something there. We may not be completely there, but there is a glimpse of how to get there. And I think that Weil made a great job to bring that us.
And I think it'll be a big topic for the future in threat modeling conferences to talk about the impact of AI. So that's another area for folks to think about. Okay. Avi Duglin kicked off pretty early in the morning, an excellent talk on what threat modeling means to our community. And I got a chance to sit in for most of that one. And it really, it was just, I love it when people can apply threat modeling to something other than development features in technical products. And Avi did a great job of giving us different things to think about how threat modeling fits out in the community scale, and even encouraged us to look for ways to create a community that's more diverse and bring new people, because threat modeling's for everyone. That was the theme of our conference, and we really mean that. Threat modeling was for everyone. So, Matt, any thoughts on this one?
Sorry, I unfortunately didn't catch this one either. I really wish I had. Izar, were you able to?
I did, and if you were to put me against the wall and say what was the absolute one that you liked the most, I would have to say that this was it for me. Not because it was a new methodology or it was a new approach or it showed me things that I didn't know about threat modeling, but because exactly what Chris said, applying it outside our usual boundaries and to something that's so important and so now as the approach that Avi had in there. And I'll be honest with you guys, I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't even think about before, both in building a community and in being part of a community. Mm-hmm. So definitely, I won't even say if you have the time, I will say go and watch this one. You will not be disappointed.
So, I'm going to take... Yeah. Go ahead. I'm going to take the approach for this one. This one that we're showing here, Dr. Michael Lowenthal's presentation was my favorite. So you had your favorite with Avi. This was, and sorry, Chris, for interrupting. I had to. This one was an eye opener, and I really wish that this was not recorded. So this one was not part of the recording, for obvious reasons. If you were present at the talk. But this one this one brought threat modeling home, because while often when we're doing threat modeling, we're threat modeling of systems, and those systems will be used in the real world. This is threat modeling of real world systems that has, and folks who have heard me talk before about privacy, safety, and security, his talk has a significant safety aspect to an implication to it. So it's security, it's privacy, it's safety, all rolled into one. He didn't use those terms necessarily directly, but they were all part of his talk, and this was very powerful. And so, like I said, it wasn't recorded, unfortunately, for obvious for some fairly obvious reasons. But this was definitely this brings this activity down to earth in a level that we don't get in both academic and corporate worlds.
Yeah. And so I did a podcast episode on the threat modeling podcast with Dr. Lodenthal. And after I heard him, after we did that interview, then I said, "Oh, you got to submit for ThreatModCon. Like, this is something we have to hear." And he's on the line here with us as well. But like, I'm like, this is a story that all of us people that have focused on the technology angle of threat modeling, we need to get this perspective, because there's so much more to this craft that we have of threat modeling. And so yeah, you can check out that threat modeling podcast episode to hear Dr. Lodenthal's story, and we get into some of the same topics in that interview. So yeah, even though we don't have a recorded version from the conference, there's a way you can hear some of that story. So that's it. You know, that's the end of our themes here. We've got a couple more pictures that just show you the kind of the hallway con side of ThreatModCon, which was really part of the magic. Us, just lots of people having conversations, talking about all things threat modeling that you could imagine. There's Izar wearing a shirt that says, "My threat model is cooler than your S-bomb." So those will be available at the Izar merch store, wherever that is, wherever you find quality
Together
merch
with the
from.
album.
And if you only knew what Steve and Izar we're talking about, Steve Spring it on the left there, and Izar, I know what they were talking about, and that's the reason of the expressions on their face. But that's for another day. There's Grant Ongers from OWASP, and Brian Reed from Now Secure. But once again, just keeping that hallway con going. Avi's on the right.
Striking a pose.
Yeah, so you gotta make sure you get a good pose when you're going through that process. There's me saying something, I don't know what.
Look out!
And there's the birds of a feather that Jono and Brooke were facilitating with kind of the overflow folks that didn't get a seat at the table in the previous room. So yeah, I mean, I would say we learned a lot. That'll be my concluding remarks. And if you got questions, get ready to raise your hand right now, or type something in the Q&A or the chat or whatever. I'll be watching that. So, but we learned a lot in this first effort. And, Shunning is the one who hides behind the scenes here. And Shunning is really the one who made this all come together. And she did the bulk of the work behind the scenes that made this come together. And, folks like myself and Izar, Matt, Brooke, we were able to kind of come up with ideas and things, but Shunning was the one who was driving the schedule and making sure everything came together. And so I'm just super, always loved the opportunity to partner with Shunning on this process, because she's incredible.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everyone, and the organizing committee for working with me to make this happen. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we can take some more questions. While I'm waiting for questions to come in, I'll do this. It's probably supposed to be Shunning's announcement, but I'm just going to, make the announcement for it. The next meetup is December 14th, Navigating Threats with Prioritization and Mitigation. That's one that I want to unpack that a little bit deeper as well. So yeah, anybody, you want to raise your hand if you got a question, or I'm going to even open it up wider. Like if you want to make a statement, which no one ever gives you the opportunity to make a statement on a wrap-up call like this. So if you want to make a statement about the event, something you experienced, yeah, John, I'll go ahead. You're up first.
I can't wait for the next one. I'm sorry, I'm going to steal the easiest one, but I had a fantastic time there, and I cannot recommend this event enough for the people that I work with and the people in my sphere and the people in the room who right now who weren't there. Please make it a priority, because there is something that has been missing, especially since the long time of being isolated in COVID, that really made this event more impactful, where not only is it that we're surrounded by practitioners who are doing these things and doing it in different ways, but who are willing to connect and share. And I think that the intersectionality of being in person and being able to not feel alone and have good information to share makes this one of the most worthwhile events for me.
Yeah, very cool. So Shunning, the question's been asked a couple of times, I think, about when we'll have recordings available. Do you have any update you can share before I go back to the folks with raised hands?
Yeah, so there's some internal challenges here. So as for right now, we are planning to release all the recording in early December, and it will be released
early December.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So that gives you a timeline. Matt, I'm going to come back to you. Let me since you and I have had a chance to talk, let Avi, why don't you go ahead and go next, please.
So I don't want to make a comment. I actually wanted to make an apology to Matt. I know Matt was really looking forward to seeing me in costume on stage. and I think I disappointed him on that. I did show up later the next day to the OS costume party in costume, but yeah.
I covered for that.
That's true. That's right. We didn't talk about Izar's little.
Should we let me just
I'll be
introduce that
posting
we
pictures soon. I've got one, a close up.
Oh, excellent.
One
So,
with the costume and one without. So look forward to that here in the coming days.
So you can see the pointy or not pointy ears. Yeah.
Oh, the pointy and not pointy.
so we
Yeah, I was
did
gonna say, I think
create
I have a couple of
a
those too.
we did create an award, and our friend Jonathan Marcel pointed out to us that we literally created the Adam Showstack Award for threat modeling and then gave it to Adam Showstack. And Jonathan's point was, who's gonna live up to that next year?
Go? No, wait.
Usually.
Isn't that the way that the awards go? Like the first recipient is
There
the one
he
that
is.
the award
Jonathan's
gets
here.
named for?
Usually it is, but yeah. So I mean, but that'll be. There are videos floating around of that. Izar did award this Adam Showstack award to Adam Showstack. Adam had to join us via video, but Izar was in costume, and so be on the lookout for that video. Shilling can help us make sure that gets placed on Threat Modeling Connect so folks can see it. Coming in towards the end of our time here, so Matt, why don't you go ahead and share your thought here?
Yeah, just really briefly, and Avi, thank you. I do appreciate that. I did check out the pictures from OWASP, and so I'll definitely have to look for you in those. What I wanted to highlight was something we didn't highlight. Pardon me. Was this was a very successful conference because with the theme of being for everyone. And we had some excellent presentations and workshops and birds of a feather and the not a keynote story hour. But there were a lot of submissions that we did not accept. And originally we were only going to have, I think had only originally planned for 4 or 6 sessions. We doubled that in size by offering 2 tracks, and we still weren't able to accept all of the submissions. So I wanted to highlight that because, and I think we've had some internal conversations about this. It was very difficult to choose who to accept and who not to accept, and many of them were excellent submissions.
Yes.
And so, I just wanted to highlight that we didn't exclude. I want to make sure everyone knows that we didn't exclude, as anybody does, or any program committee for a conference does. They get way more submissions than they can accept. And so we tried to stitch this together in a way that made sense for folks and that supported the theme. And so I just wanted to highlight that, keep those submissions coming. Mm-hmm. We most definitely did not in any way, shape, or form. Nothing was excluded without a lot of careful deliberation. Everyone had great presentation submissions. And the fact that we had double the sessions we originally planned was excellent, and we had a good group of alternates. So just wanted to highlight that because I don't think that gets a lot of attention. This was the first conference, and we had way more than we could hope to accommodate.
Yeah, I mean, I know it was a challenge for the program committee, right? A lot of those submissions could have been talks here, and there was a lot of deliberation, I know, that went into that. So thank you once again to the program committee for having those challenging conversations, but also it's an encouragement, folks, submit for next year. Like, this needs to be a thing. So Brooke, you get the final word, then I'm gonna close this out, but I'll let you go.
I just want to reiterate, when you choose these things, you're sitting on you have all this incredible stuff, right? Some things fall out, not because they might not be a great submission, but the submission itself is incomplete. So we had one submission which turned out, when we gave feedback, was not what it appeared to be when we would have chosen it, possibly, but the person didn't fill out all of the things. So when you submit, you really give us enough to work with, please, or give whomever's on it, not me, but whomever's on a program committee, give them enough to work with, because it's really hard. And so you filter out that stuff that's sort of incomplete right away, because you have a lot of submissions, and that's hard, because maybe you might miss something really important. And I think we might have in that one, as I talked to the submitter about why didn't they get accepted. So fill them out. And then it's still an embarrassment of riches. So you think about, okay, we choose the ones we like. Oh, wait a minute, we don't have all the themes. Oh, maybe we should go back and look at it. It goes round and round. It's really not the easiest thing, at least for me, not the easiest thing I've done. I'd rather threat model, to tell you the truth.
I'd rather be
think-
threat modeling. That's a good t-shirt slogan.
There you go. Izar, I'll be wearing that t-shirt like a week from now. I'd rather be
Is that
threat
the
modeling.
theme for next year? Is that what I just heard?
That is not bad. That's actually a
That's
nice
not.
theme for a conference. I'd rather be threat modeling because it has a whole bunch of funny tie-ins. So I want to
Yep.
quote Brooke here in the chat here to close out this session. So thanks folks for being here and being a part of this. Brooke wrote this comment. He said, remember that each of you can help to make ThreatModCon happen. And so that's what I want to leave you with here. I know we've got 35 people on the line right now, and there's going to be opportunities and even more opportunities next year for more folks to get involved. And so this is a community effort. It's a community event, and we need your help to be a part of it, whether that's submitting a talk, whether that's volunteering to do something during the conference. But let's make this a continuation next year. Let's continue the magic that we started with here into the future. So thanks for being a part of this retrospective, and we look forward to seeing everybody around Threat Modeling Connect, and be on the lookout for some updates on what's going to happen next year with ThreatModCon. Some exciting things will be released in the coming months here, so you can start planning. So thanks everybody.
Thanks everyone.
Everyone.